And welcome back. It's time for Opinion Court. Get in touch with us. 22422 is our SMS line. And if you're online, particularly on Twitter, we're running a Twitter poll for you and asking you how these recent events in regard to the disregard of court orders will affect President Kenyatta's legacy. So please do keep voting. That's what it looks like right now, but we'll be giving you the final poll result at the end of this live newscast. Let me introduce my guests to you. To my immediate right is LSK, I should say freshly minted LSK Vice President Harriet Chigai. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Next to her is Edward Kisiangani, our resident political analyst. And to my left is Mashario Gaido, an independent journalist and columnist, but you're more like a resident commentator on Opinion Court. Okay. And you're welcome to the program as well. I want us to start by examining the entire Miguna situation that unraveled this week. And Harriet, let me begin with you. From a legal point of view, could all this drama have been avoided if he simply presented his passport like the rest of us do when you come into the country, get it stamped, and then pursue his argument on citizenship in the courts where he was expected to appear?
That was an easier way out, actually. If he did that, I don't think we'd have all these circus that is currently going on. And to that extent, I think he's faulted a little bit. And but having said that, I want to believe also this is somebody who was jetting it already, ready to fight. So we should have expected his character. We should have expected his conduct. And at the same time, we should have averted the same. So the current situation should have been avoided by either party. Maybe the state should have been prepared, you know. And if they were prepared, I want to believe they should have averted this whole issue. Okay.
Yeah. What, if any, constitutional rights has he been denied?
Basically a lot. First, he's a Kenyan citizen by birth. And that right cannot be taken away, you know. And that is one key issue that we need to actually really interrogate. And he should have been accorded, you know, his citizenship status, you know. Everything else should have actually been dealt with once he's settled in. And I want to believe that should have been the starting point, you know.
And so when the state argues, although this is something that, of course, will be in court if Miguna ends up in Kenya for such a case to proceed, the state has argued that, you know, he had relinquished that citizenship by taking on another one at a time when one could not hold dual citizenship. So how would you respond to that?
I want to state that that argument does not hold water. You cannot revoke anyone's citizenship by birth. And there's also provision whereby you could easily have applied, you know. But the fact that you acquired another citizenship does not revoke your citizenship by birth. So personally, where I sit, that argument should not actually carry the day. Okay. It shouldn't carry the day.
And as I pose this to you, indeed I do to the rest of my panelists, if we are to hold, as courts have, that, you know, that revocation of his citizenship is stayed, what does this situation tell us about what it means to be a Kenyan citizen?
Look at it this way. This is somebody who has even claimed he doesn't have his Canadian passport, right? He's being thrown around. Currently, he's in Dubai, right? From what we want to believe in. But the question then is, even in Dubai, he's still an alien. You know? They have to bring him back home. You know, so ultimately his paperwork has to be done from here, whichever way. And just like I'd already stated, is that your citizenship by birth does not go away simply because you applied for another. So those are issues that we need to think through deep, and also take note the court has already pronounced itself on those issues. And one of the key things that we need to take note is that already orders have been put in place. And by virtue of that, those are legal issues that only then could have been well defined by the court process. So either way, we should have settled this gentleman in. even take him to his house, put him under house arrest, and ensure that all these processes are done, because that was a court order that had already been issued. So let's look at it from a legalistic way, the issues of rule of law and upholding the constitution vis-a-vis the political circus that is currently going on.
Oh, and we'll get into that circus with Prof very shortly. But to you all, Macharia, so this whole thing, what does it tell you about being Kenyan? What does it mean to be a Kenyan citizen in 2018, watching the events of this week?
It is so depressing. It is so sad that just when we think now we can regain some sanity and start moving in an orderly fashion, something like this has to happen. And it just shows you how, I don't know how to describe this government sometimes, how ham-fisted they are. They don't know how to manage information. They don't know how to manage situations. They allow things to get out of control for absolutely no reason. Now, being a Kenyan, I am scared that some bureaucrat sitting somewhere can one day wake up and decide, I am not a Kenyan. Miguna is a Kenyan, there is no doubt about that. The very fact that he took Canadian citizenship is not a bar against him being a Kenyan. The fact that he had a Kenyan passport, a Kenyan ID card, what else do you need to prove that you're a Kenyan? And this is where we, yes, Miguna likes drama. They should have known it. He caused drama. It is easy to say he should simply have handed in his Canadian passport and got it stamped and then come in. But there's a matter of principle involved. The moment they told him to apply for a visa, it tells him he's a foreigner. The moment they tell him to come into Kenya as an alien on a temporary visitor's visa, it is the moment he agrees to that, it is an acknowledgement that he's a foreigner. The moment they tell him to put in an application for Kenya citizenship, which they did, the moment he signs that, it means he's acknowledging that he's not a Kenyan. So he has every right to refuse all those things. And however it plays out is that at the end of the day, Miguna is a Kenyan, and he'll come back to this country, and this government will not be in power forever. Or those people who are subjecting him to that treatment will not be in power forever. And that is what I keep telling these guys. Guys, don't be so full of yourself just because you hold a ministerial position, or because you're the president, or because you're a director of something or other, or commissioner of police. Those positions are temporary. Kenya is permanent. And you would not want to do things which you would not want done to you in 5 years' time or 10 years' time when somebody else is in power. And tables will always turn, because we don't have a life presidency. And even the countries that have a life presidency, a president dies, and another one comes in and starts harassing the characters who used to think they are demigods.
Right.
So it's better, I think, to set an example by being humble, by being honest, by respecting the rights of all Kenyans. The moment you show that as the president, as the minister, as the Inspector General of Police, you do not respect the courts, you do not respect court orders, you do not respect the laws and the constitution that you are sworn to uphold, then you're the one who is actually committing treason, and you should be held to account. Okay.
Prof, what does this tell you about the state of being Kenyan?
I think it tells us that being Kenyan can just be a joke. One morning you are a Kenyan, another morning you are not. It is a joke. It's a joke like kids buying sambusa in a shop. They can throw it away and then rush back to their parents to get more money and still acquire sambusa. So what we're looking at is that there is no integrity attached to being Kenyan. I want to begin from where my sister has left. The legal position, Anne, which we all must subscribe to, under Article 16 of the Constitution, Chapter 3, nobody can lose citizenship because they have acquired a citizenship of another country so long as they were born in this country. That is the legal position. And so when we talk about the Constitution, because we have a duty to inform the public, we must specifically say the violations which have been done. In the case of the state, they have actually violated the Constitution, specifically Article 16, because the state has no authority to do that. Now, his right to citizenship is also, you know, embedded in what you see as the Bill of Rights, the beginning of the Bill of Rights in Article 19. That these rights are not given by the state, but these rights are individual rights, and it's the role of the state to guard them. So the state cannot purport to give you rights which is not in the Constitution. So having said that, I want to get to what Macharia is saying. Being a citizen, you know, the truth about this matter is that Miguna is a Kenyan citizen. This has also been confirmed by the courts. So what are we discussing? We are discussing a dispensation to violate the Constitution. So we have a constitutional crisis.
Well, has it... Well...
Because the point that I'm making, Anne, is that this violation has been done. Let's take it for granted that probably he was excessive in the airport. But you know, if I were coming from the United States and I become funny in the airport and it's already established my legal position is that I'm a Kenyan, they simply arrest me and take me to court under the Kenyan laws. So because at the beginning there was no question and the courts had already said Miguna is a Kenyan, whatever misbehavior he caused at the airport, he should only be charged under the Kenyan laws. So this other story about whether he did sign ABCD or not is a diversion by people who have deliberately violated the Constitution. Okay. So that is the point.
All right.
So
hold it there, Prof, so that we can get through some more. And I see where you're going in terms of the Constitution.
Yes.
And I'd like us to talk about that in terms of also the relationship between the executive and the judiciary. But speaking of Constitution, Harriet, is it all a facade, these rights, to the extent that this law, as supreme as it is, can be broken by he who holds the gun? And from at least what we have seen, there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, that's easier said than done. Personally, I want to say that Kenyans and the professionals at large should not give up, because that's the setting back that we've given up and we are going to let go. But that should not be the general feeling. I want to believe the Constitution is still alive. And it's upon all of us, regardless of who you are, to actually uphold the rule of law. And that is why this issue of not obeying court orders is actually one that is really disheartening, especially within the legal fraternity. So that means today it's Miguna. Let's put somebody else in Muguna's shoe. It could be your child tomorrow.
It could be anyone tomorrow.
It could be anyone tomorrow, you know. And that is why we're saying this should not continue, you know. And it can be any other issue, because just like I said earlier today morning, that disobeying court orders is a very bad cancer. It's cancerous. And once it starts, it trickles down to any other issue that can actually emanate within any legal provisions, any other court. So it can even be criminal in nature, you know, any other, you know. So that is why we need to take this thing with the seriousness that it deserves. And we cannot just sit back and let it be.
We saw...
I can put it in a very simple way. If the Minister for National Security, Wana Matiang'i, if the Inspector General of Police, Boynet, can disobey court orders, what motivation would I, as Macharia Gaitho, as an ordinary citizen, have to obey court orders? Absolutely none. I don't have to obey the courts or the laws if the people charged with enforcing the laws are also disobeying. They are setting a precedent which we can then all follow.
Let me ask you this. So we've had, Afo said the Interior PS here, and he has explained why on one occasion he had to disregard court orders. And he said at that time, I think it was surrounding the crackdown on illicit brew, etc., that there was a particular substance that was being held by certain persons, and that this substance is known to only create one thing, and then the court says you can't go in and destroy this thing, and his responsibility is between literally life and death. Sometimes a court order is not
absolutely
within
nonsense, because and that's the problem with these people through all this thing. Instead of arguing their case in court, they're all over the place, issuing roadside declarations, issuing press statements, sending out their armies of bloggers to argue their cases. Why don't they simply go to court and argue their case there? Whatever that PS said, it is a matter he should have gone to argue in court. And if he's dissatisfied with that ruling of that judge or that magistrate, there are avenues to go to a higher court.
Okay.
You know, and something that you need to know.
They can never be
just one second. Prof, we are running out of time and I want you to get into the politics. We just have about 5 minutes to this. So please, I beg your pardon, restrict yourself to a question.
Yes.
Because
the politics.
She earlier talked, the politics of this Miguna affair. Harriet has said that, yes, perhaps, if I'm not misquoting you, there was some grandstanding on Miguna's part and that we know him to be such a character, correct? Having said that, Prof, what does he gain politically from acting in this way, would you say?
Miguna? He knows the stake is set to play, to make him play victim. And when he plays victim, he gets sympathies from very unlikely quarters. I'm sure some of the people who never used to support Miguna are now on his side, because he is the inferior character in the battle. So that also is the making of that is how some people emerge to cause a lot of trouble in the world. When Germany was overpunished after the Second World War, that caused Hitler to come up. After the First World War, that is how Hitler rose. He called Germany together and told them that we are hated by the rest of the world. Miguna is being made, he's being fashioned, fabricated into a different character. And God knows, if he recovers from the stress he has gone through, God knows what he's going to do. But you know, we also need to say, so politically he gains a lot. He gets a lot of supporters he never even had. But also the people who are hurting him lose. They lose the political appeal, because nobody understands this. You know, when the courts are saying that apart from the executive, there are very few people who seem to be taking the position of the state. So really, the state should look back and say, how popular is this decision? You know, in the 90s, we had another Kenyan who suffered a similar fate, but it was a different constitutional dispensation. People have never understood why Professor Michelle Mugo is a citizen of Zimbabwe. You know, she was coming back because there was no hardship, but there was an agreement that now we are multi-party and we are doing well. So Michelle Mugo was coming back from New York, and she received information at Heathrow Airport that she has lost citizenship, so she has to apply for the visa. She stayed at the airport for a very long time until Salim Mugabe saved her, and that's how she became the citizen of Zimbabwe. Now, many years later, under different constitutional dispensation, you have this kind of thing happening to Miguna, and everybody feels unsafe because you can easily be declared an alien. So, who gains? You can get even dictators. Not that Miguna, we have anything that we are saying he can do well in Kenya as a leader, but he's gaining support, which can be mistaken to be good leadership, and he can start commanding a huge population behind him.
Where does that leave Macharia, the handshake?
That's what I was going to come to. Beyond Miguna is the handshake. I think this whole thing has undermined that handshake, and it has been very bad for Raila, because Raila went into that handshake, let me say, with good intentions, that people are changing and that people want to do things differently.
Do we know that that was his intention?
I would assume that that was his that was his belief, that he's dealing with honest people who have reached a Damascus moment, and they now want to stop all this thing of repression and so on and so forth, and listen to other voices and change the way of doing things. Now, what are we saying? That handshake was useless, that Raila was conned, that nothing has changed. That will affect Raila, even with his own people, who he still has to persuade that he did the right thing.
But this has given a lifeline to Kalonzo, Weta, and Musalia.
Yes.
They never took charge of they never took advantage of the opportunity with that Raila's misery, because actually the handshake has translated into nothing. So I expected people like Musalia on a light note Musalia Weta to be at the airport to ask people, call a press conference and tell people, look, so what about this handshake? You know, this is what we were telling you. They missed the opportunity, but nevertheless,
those are people who always miss the opportunity.
Yes, but nevertheless, Macharia, what you are saying is correct.
Yes.
Raila Odinga.
But Raila Odinga
is injured.
No, but wait a minute, because Prof said something quite interesting about the photo op. No, hold on, Macharia, about the photo op. Now, let's also bear in mind that Miguna and Raila Odinga are not exactly best of friends at this point. Miguna has already said categorically, Raila, you know, he basically betrayed them by, you know, even having this handshake. You're talking about photo ops. Was it a photo op for Raila to show up at the airport?
But no, I don't want to interpret it that way. I think Raila...
Look at you backing down.
No, I think Raila went there after realizing that, you know, Miguna was being proved right. You know, he didn't want Miguna to steal the show. What has happened has confirmed what Miguna said when he rubbished the handshake. So Raila wanted to go there to say, maybe it's you who is the problem. Had Raila released Miguna, it would just confirm that you are a troublemaker, I've helped you. But the fact that he was not released...
Raila went there believing that he can do something.
Yes.
What is the story we got, which in fact government guys are pushing it very much, that Raila tried to get Uhuru to intervene and did not get anywhere.
Does that tell you that this is just a power play?
It's a power play, but who is the loser? It's Raila. It shows that that handshake meant nothing. That even he can call Uhuru and be ignored.
And on that note, that's our time. I must say at this point that we did reach out to the Ministry of the Interior to send representation to our show today and explain their position and why they took the actions they did. They declined to come. But as they say, the show must go on. Thanks for watching. I'm Ann Kiguta. Have a very happy Easter weekend, and my thanks to my guests tonight. Bye-bye.